Hello, basketball world. It's been a while. We're all busy in the summer. Back at it. Our guest today is Billy McCormick. Just introduce yourself. Maybe let us know how do you start into coaching, and let what people should know about you.
Yeah, well, first off, I feel really small in this chair, but I mean, it's really you. You were the first introduction to me coaching. Believe I reached out to you on Instagram, just kind of throwing a feeler out there, like would love to coach. I'm in a job right now, just graduated, and you got back to me relatively quickly. And you just told me that I literally met you at like a taco restaurant in some strip mall, and you just kind of laid out some options for me. And I think I jumped at the volunteer opportunity at Carmel when you started there, and that's how it all started.
So. Yeah, I believe we already started season for a little bit, so you missed preseason, and then you were right out of college. But tell me about basketball. Like, why did you around basketball, and what was your motivation?
Yeah, I mean, I think after I graduated college, I was just watching the game a lot, and I don't know, the job I was in initially, it just didn't seem like there was much direction. And I figured, literally, my initial mindset going into it was this would be something on the side that I'd be interested in possibly doing, and I could just kind of jump in the fire, and then from there, it's like, I love this. Let's keep doing it. So. I didn't really have like a mindset like, oh, I want to coach full time right away. It was more just like, let's see what is available for me, and if I like it, then I'll continue to do it for a little bit. If I don't like it, then not a huge deal.
Tell us about your playing days.
Few and far between. In high school, I was solid in middle school. Just played for my grade school team, and then a little bit of travel for a program called Over the Edge. And then went to Loyola, got cut my freshman and sophomore year, was a team manager there. And then my junior year, I didn't make the team as well. And I had a good sit down with my coach, Coach Livatino there. Very honest conversation just about things. And then that's when I initially met you guys at Full Package, reached out to you, and at least Steve was involved a little bit then, and just tried out for the team, was placed somewhere. Coach Walker was my coach. And then I felt like that was a huge spring for my confidence, where I was able to play in a lot of games. And then from there, I was able to make the team, and a lot of different things at Loyola too went into that. But just in terms of like basketball playing, I felt like getting around you guys and playing a lot of games was a big step for me in order to be in position to make it my senior year. And then senior year, didn't play a ton, but great experience. A lot of my closest friends to this day are part of that group. So
yeah, JCC Skokie is the place.
Is that place? I think that place has been disintegrated, or is it being used?
It's done. It's not there no more. But and I always thought it was a great story for you to, in a program like Loyola, not making a team. Usually they, don't even look at you, and then 2 years later you're on a team and you're part of it. Per se, you're not a starter, but it was, everybody contributes at some point. So I thought it was a pretty good story, just from your playing career. And then when we met, I just really liked your knowledge of college basketball, and I just saw that you watched it a lot and really studying it, and it was just interesting. So for me, it was an easy choice because you love basketball and you love, players, and you went through things that, some players are going through, and some coaches, because they were good, they could not kind of relate to them. And by you being cut in high school, you could relate to a lot of players and can help them to, just by example, to show what you can do. So yeah, it was interesting. So I always thought, you can be a really good coach if you learn some things, but the core values were there.
Also, Billy, you went to Dayton University, and University of Dayton, my apologies, and you were there during the big run of Obi Toppin. What, if anything, did that lead you to like falling back in love and staying in love in basketball? And how did that journey come to an end when COVID ruined their chance of winning a national championship?
Great question, touchy subject. But it's funny enough, my mom always gets on me, like me and my buddies freshman year of college, like even though I played basketball in high school, like we didn't go to games. And looking back on it, it's like, why wouldn't we go to the basketball games? It's like a primary thing. And then there was a lot of buzz around the program, obviously, when Obi was there. And it was just awesome to be a part of. But even during that time, I wouldn't say that was necessarily a driving factor for me to get back into coaching, but it definitely continued to stimulate my interest in watching college basketball. That was very fun time cut short. I think they would have wanted all their shirts out there and flags, Dayton national champions in 2020. But yeah, that was definitely a fun time. I think they've got a great coach, a pretty level-headed coach there, Anthony Grant. Well, now that I've been coaching, I think looking at him and what he's done with the program is pretty cool. So definitely still love watching my Flyers.
Yeah. Usually one of the first questions we ask to maybe understand you better, what is the character in a movie or cartoon that you kind of relate to, or maybe you can go by or compare yourself with?
Well, this person is not a fictional character, but there is a great movie about the 1980 USA hockey team that was a big stimulator in me kind of just being interested in team and coaching. Me and my buddies used to watch it all the time in high school. It's called Miracle on Ice, and their head coach, his name was Herb Brooks, and he was played by Kurt Russell in that movie. But he just very inspiring, a lot of his quotes, and I think there's a lot of good lessons you can learn from that movie.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. I like it a lot. That celebration team when he like just going the whole way and kind of on his own and everybody else, running around. So that's a pretty good movie. When you close your eyes, like what is the first thing that pops up when it comes to basketball to you?
Probably two. One as a player I'll never forget the moment when I was in Livatino's office when he accepted me on the roster going into my senior year. There was like the whole coaching staff was up there. I thought he was going to cut my ass again. And then I made it from there. I'll never forget that moment. Another one as a player is I got in the regional championship against Maine South and banked in a free throw. classic Billy McCormick style at Maine South. We won that game. And then as a coach, winning at St. Pass with you guys in the regional championship is something that was very memorable because another kind of like underdog story and very cool to win on their floor.
Yeah. Lowest seed in Illinois.
Yes, sir.
What are so since you talk about Livatino a little bit, what are the coaches who you think influence you the most or you're looking up to overall,
I mean, it's you by a significant margin, I would say. I mean, I haven't been around a ton of other coaches outside of yourself. And I mean, Dylan, Brandon, Jordan were kind of the foundation. I feel like a lot of my philosophies at this point have come from you guys. And there's coaches in the college and the NBA game as well that I look to just in terms of like stylistically. And I mean, you look at their cultures, but you really don't know their culture until you get in their building every day. So it's hard to say, but a lot of your guys' stuff, X's and O's stuff and culture wise is where I kind of pull my stuff from. Some of the stuff from the high school experience is really good as well. But I think you guys have really given me a full scope of what it means to be like a basketball player and be on a basketball team and be a coach.
What are the guys maybe in college or in NBA you watch and you try to resemble something or you're learning from them?
College, probably two guys, more like stylistically. One of them's more old school, Kelvin Sampson from Houston. From the outside, I mean, it seems like he's got just a tremendous culture defensively, their principles. I mean, if you watch a Houston game, I always encourage my teams at Carmel this past year to like watch a full Houston game. It's incredible how connected they are defensively, in the gaps, on rebounds, closeouts, just their energy. I think their resiliency in that Duke semifinal game was very cool to watch. And then offensively, I'd say Alabama with Nate Oates. I think he's really given his teams a lot of freedom. They're one of the fastest. I don't know statistically, but I think they're one of the fastest teams in college basketball. I mean, they take a ridiculous amount of threes. And just looking back at our last week in here with full package, I think when you look back at it, it's like and I mean, we've talked about it a lot too. I mean, that's the new wave of basketball. Is like, I remember when we went to UIC, Rob Eason, space and pace. I mean, that's huge now. Just get out and transition, shoot a lot of threes, crash the offensive boards. And so stylistically, those are two guys. NBA, we talked about Joe Mazzulla. I mean, obviously he's got a lot of talent on his team, but I mean, he says the right thing still. He's very, very committed to developing a system there, and they play with a lot of pace as well. And then Udoka as well in Houston. Great coach, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting how you got Kellen Sampson and Nate Oates, and like one is offensive minded and like you said, pace, and the other one is more defensive minded, and like their best offense is offensive rebounds, honestly, or transition. So pretty interesting. That's why I kind of always say that college is very interesting because there's so many ways to do it right, and it's just so many teams successful doing what they are doing. Like Kansas has been running their wheel offense for 20 years, and Alabama is space and pace, and then you got a team that slow it down and walk you up and just walk the ball and run their stuff, or teams who pass more than dribble, and it's just always interesting. And that's why for me it was pretty cool that you liked college basketball and you were just in it and watching it and studying it. So pretty good.
Yeah, another big thing, and we're going to talk about your growth probably later, but from most young coaches, they're all like, oh, I want to run a lot of plays because I need to be in control and I don't always trust my teammates. And now your growth to like, hey, I'm giving my players a lot of freedom offensively and defensively and letting them play at a speed that is just for players development is a big growth in your basketball or coaching journey right now that I've seen from you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say this AAU season specifically, I've really tried to be intentional about that. Like this spring and summer, I've not called as much, I'd say, and like this is probably the most successful.
Breakaway.
Once in a while. Well, horn slash is the new breakaway, but I mean, I think this has been the most successful just in terms of wins. I mean, I'd have to step back. I think the culture is pretty solid as well of our full package or 16U team, but I mean, in terms of like we've won a lot of games this spring and summer. We've scored a lot of points. I mean, we scored over 73 out of 4 games this weekend. Awesome. And I felt like I didn't call a ton of stuff. So yeah, that's something I think you specifically too, Dylan, really kind of honed in on me about. Like, you got to let them play. Can't call a set every time. And then it's funny when you go against another coach who's probably around my age, young, but they haven't been trained by the best of them, like you guys, and they're calling a bunch of stuff. It's like, wow, this is really detrimental to their team, and they're struggling offensively. So yeah, I think having a good hybrid of it, and I think I've understood that there's a time to run sets, and I think it's like obviously crunch time situations, like save it for then, and kind of feel the game. It's such a long game when you really step back into it. Like you don't need to run like 6 sets in the first 10 possessions. Right. So it's been a good progression, I think, for me.
No, for sure. And like we talk about how 16U as a group, like probably the most connected one out of everybody. Just they practice together, they like each other, they go on each other games. The kids would stay for 2 hours longer just to go and watch somebody else on that group, and they're all happy for each other when they succeed. So the culture is there for sure, and you guys part of it. Whoever ran 16U. You're a big part of it. They take it from coaches. And you're right about the running stuff. And then in the high school, it's a little bit different too because the game's a little slower. There's more breaks. There's more timeouts. There's quarters. There's a different feel. So then the defense scout you, and then that's where you're going to have to switch up and then put some things in. Yeah. You also have more time on the practices and everybody shows up because they go after school or before school. So again, there's a time and place, but as a program, I think we shift to be more principle oriented, over the offense. We got, depending how people play us, we will go to different principles, and you adjusted well to that. And I mean, we're all learning, right? So like it's a different season than the one before. And in 2023, I was running so many things, and I could tell them 7 plays ahead, like, hey, we're running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. And they would just execute it out of there. And this year, we had good players with, who made good decisions. And I feel like that's a trust of players, Dylan was talking about, and you bought into that. And, players like to play for you. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's just having a great time when they play for you. They stay connected. You had a former player from last year. He ended up coming back now, but before, when he was on another team, he still asked if he could sit on your bench at the first Wintrust tournament that I went to. And that's just a testament to the relationship you build with your players and then the freedom you let them play with.
Yeah, I mean, I try to act like a kid in some scenarios with them, like just kind of don't act like some just control, like I'm the coach and I make all the rules and I don't talk to you outside of practice and games. And I think we've got a good connection with a lot of them. But then I do think that there's a good happy medium that they do listen when there needs to be instruction. So
yeah, they should recognize that. Kind of right on that. Who would you be assistant to? Let's say outside of us, like who would you want to be assistant to and learn from? And
in high school or college or
you can do both or all 3 levels if you want to.
I'm trying to think in high school. It'd be interesting to be on the other side of the desk at Loyola. I mean, obviously you got it from a player perspective, and I've talked with Livatino since I've graduated, but it'd be interesting on that side. I think Bennett's very interesting as well. Bennett, just the way that they've been able to recruit players, like even just that process alone, like how do you go about recruiting kind of? I know it's different in high school, but
yeah, how do you get great players year after year after year
after year? And like their players are so tough. Like when does that happen? When does that process happen during their 4 years? And then, I mean, DePaul Prep is incredible to watch, and you can tell those players like are so bought in there, like defensively, offensively, they don't take bad shots. They don't, they never like snap at each other from what I've seen. So just very interesting to see those at the college level. I mean, Brad Underwood has been, I think he's really turned around that Illinois program. I mean, they've had their ups and downs, but he's done a tremendous job of recruiting. So something's going on where players are wanting to go play for him more.
Yeah, the Big Ten still goes through Bloomington, though.
Yeah, it's been a while. Dan Hurley is obviously one that a lot of people would say, but it's pretty impressive what he's been able to do there. And then NBA, I got to think about that. I think I'm a little bit of ways off from NBA, but
you're right around the corner.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Joe Mazzulla. So
yeah, Mazzulla. I mean, I think it's kind of interesting. It's telling, and I've listened to a lot of Donovan recently, Billy Donovan. Like some fans out there would be like, "Why is he still there?" But there's clearly a reason. Like if you actually hear him talk, and the more you're around basketball and understand basketball, like, and I know some people say he's more fit for college than NBA, but like clearly, like a lot of people in that organization are like want him to stick around because he's so knowledgeable about the game. So I know you've been around the Bulls more than me, but it'd just be interesting to see how that kind of works on a day by day.
Yeah, well, he's now the second longest coach in the league, so it says something. Yeah. Tell us about when last time you played.
Like in a league or just
anyway
pickup? Yeah, I played pickup at Lifetime a couple weeks ago. I played with some of the guys, full package guys, a couple weeks ago, but not nearly as much as I'd like to. Typically in the fall, which will probably get going again, like me and like 6 or 7 of my Loyola buddies playing a men's league down at most recently it was Lincoln Park High School, which is fun. That floor and gym is iconic, so I want to do it there again. I know you.
Yeah, that far basket is low.
Yeah,
it's like 9 feet.
It's bent. It's
bent low. Everybody dunking on that far side in Lincoln Park.
So we'll chat. Well, that'll probably happen again in the fall. So it's fun.
Yeah, I remember one time I came to practice a little bit later from other practice, and coaches were playing and you were playing in Oakton. So
Yeah.
it was fun.
I wish I could play more. I mean, that's something I know I've talked to you a lot about it, but just like trying to play more would be a big goal of mine the next year.
Yeah, I tell coaches until you cannot no more, you should be playing with your players. So that's funny. So tell me this, since you were with us, you were on a varsity staff, and then last year you were a head coach for sophomores.
Yep.
So tell me, like, development versus winning. Like, what does this come from to you, and what does that mean? And is that an adjustment from different levels you've been coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think initially I was very immature when I started coaching in terms of that differentiator between development and winning. I mean, I think I went in and I came from a winning program, but you don't realize all the steps that it takes to get there. But I think like the first day of my coaching career, we were at Libertyville and I just was there, and it was a little bit sloppy and we didn't win. And just the more I've been around you guys, like, there's so many steps that it takes to get to winning, and it all starts with development, so whether it be skill development, character development. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to work on your skills. Like, you can come up with all the plays, and you guys have taught me this. You guys can come up with all the plays in the world, all the defensive schemes in the world, but if you don't get in the gym and play 5-on-5, like, count your makes, shoot a bunch of shots during the off season, play 1-on-1, 2-on-2, work on your ball handling. None of that stuff's going to work. So I think winning can become a product of development. Being in the AAU world more with you guys now, you really get an appreciation for like how players develop, and it takes a significant amount of time. So you can't skip that step. But in terms of winning, like, winning is obviously something that we all strive to do, but at the end of the day, like, if you're winning with a bunch of buttholes, as you say, like, when you step back and evaluate, it's not as fun. But you want to win. I mean, I think I've heard you guys say, like, if you don't win a game but it's a great time, like, I'm, at least maybe this is me still being immature, I'm not quite wired that way where I could probably go 0-30 and have a good time, but maybe I'll get there at some point. But I think that there can be success that comes out of seasons that aren't as successful in terms of W's, but just the development. It's like really cool to see how much players develop because of the time they put in.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about, like, you can draw a magic play, but if you can't make a layup, or if you up and cannot make free throws, or cannot make open shot, like, there's just no matter what you do, it's not going to work. You can hide it, right? If you cannot shoot, then maybe you can get to the basket or get in transition or press, right? So you can hide some things, but in the end of the day, like, you will be exposed in a good way to do things. So then, like we said, the player development comes one of the first things when it comes to basketball, even though it's a team sport.
Yeah, and then also, like, later in your coaching life, you realize, like, sometimes there's games that you could go win, but then it's only winning because you manipulate everything instead of, like, the players actually growing in the moments. And then if you don't let those players grow in that moment, then, like, maybe later down in a regional or sectional game, they've never experienced it because you're able to draw them out of that situation that they're in. So there's definitely different times, and obviously different type of coaches are able to be more fluctuating with development over winning, right? If you're a head college coach and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just developing a bunch of players, and you, like, have losing season after losing season after losing season, like, boosters are like, oh yeah, get that guy out of there. So for you, especially, like, you're at a high school level where, winning is really important, but also at the AU round where if it's not always like a championship game every single tournament, then you have more free way of, like, just developing kids in different types of situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think something that I've thought about, like, is And I think Gene's probably a good example of this at Bennett, because I've heard like he struggled early on, but clearly he probably had a method to his madness. Like he believed in something, and he like said, I'm gonna live and die by this. And it just over time, eventually, it led to stuff. It led to winning. So I think if you're able to be mature enough early on, as you're saying, as a young coach, to go forward with your philosophy, whether it be like taking the best player out of the game late because he's complaining, or putting the 12th guy in the middle of the game in December when it's close, and you might lose the game. But if you believe in that, win or lose, ultimately in the long run, I think it's going to benefit yourself, your program, and your players.
Yeah, I mean, Gene been adjusting last few years, especially to his roster too, because before he was just kind of running offense that was working. But then when he realized he would have, like Nico and Kyle, like Kyle was 7 feet and Nico was 6'5" point guard. So then he ended up getting him in a pick and roll a lot, which he typically didn't do. And then all of a sudden he adjusted to that roster. And the next roster came, and they have a bunch of 6'3", 6'4" post ups pretty much, right? And then so then a lot of was to the basket to get the paint touch and play out of there. Like Brady Kunko was there, and he was very universal, and they would post him up instead of they're big per se. So again, when it comes to Gene, I feel like he was adjusting to his roster, and eventually, it all came to alignment. And in Illinois basketball too, just depending on sectional and the way the seeds work, sometimes you got to be a little lucky to get through all the time, not to get tired and not to get worn out. So all the stars came aligning, and he won the state, so it's pretty cool to watch.
Oh, for sure.
Since we're talking about that, can you describe us, like, what is a perfect basketball to you?
Defensively, I would say this weekend I was talking with one of the coaches about, because there's a shot clock now, and I think it's so satisfying when you get a shot clock violation defensively. Like that shows that multiple things were working. Like guys were in the right position off the ball pressure was great. Communication might have flustered the other team from getting in their action. So recently, like defensively, I think if you are able to cause the other team to get a shot clock violation, I think that's pretty perfect basketball. Offensively, I would say, Greg Popovich had the half-second rule, like the ball doesn't stay in your hand, or you make some sort of movement with half a second. Like I think when the ball's moving, that's great basketball. Whether it be off a drive, just a pass forward in transition. I love watching transition basketball right now. That's why I'm stubborn. I even like to watch the Bulls still. But I think like Alabama and Florida even did it a lot, like transition basketball where you just get the rebound and outlet, and you're able to trust your teammate enough to outlet the ball. Like I was watching a clip, I think it was yesterday, of like, it was just like 5 minutes of Tyrese Halliburton just advancing the ball off a rebound without even dribbling it. And so I think playing fast is something I view as beautiful offensive basketball.
Yeah. I just discovered like one of the shots that start coming up, and it's very high percentage, is a dribble up three, because in transition, people, eat up space. They get a rim run and they get a corners, and defense, especially in NBA, is so worried about those that it's flattening them out.
Yeah.
And that's why I bring the ball three is like a big shot now in NBA, and people working on it, and it's like a new thing. It's like a new corner three because it's a high percentage shot. So transition creates that.
We'll get into probably some of this later. I don't know the questions necessarily, but like think about and I think the game has changed so much even since when I was in high school. Like that shot you're talking about, you'd be benched for a week.
Yeah.
If you shot that shot. And maybe in some high school programs you still would. You still would. But it is the way, just shoot those threes. I love it. So
all right, since we're into that, let's do like what are you studying new things right now, maybe that helps you, or what are new things in basketball you think is coming?
I mean, I think like offensively, this is obviously common sense to an extent, but like the more shots you take in a game, the more points you're more likely to score. So I think obviously just harping on it again, like the faster pace, like I'm fine with shooting, like you just said, like cross the half court and shoot a three if you're a good shooter. Because that just leads to so many offensive rebounds. And then I was listening to, I think it was one of your last podcasts. I forgot what guest brought it up, but I've just made such a point of noticing it. I think everyone has understood, and I've been able to see this the past couple of years of my own, is obviously the stretch five and the five bringing the ball up. But the whole thing about the posting guards is so interesting now.
Yeah, it was a great guest. I think it was the first podcast.
Was it Dylan? Basketball aficionado over there. But the posting guards is so interesting after I heard that. Like, I mean, everyone sees Brunson, but you see all these guys. I mean, even like Giddey plays with his ball back to back.
Jason Tatum. It used to be Andre Miller. Used to be the best at it.
But I think I've been studying like just footwork on that stuff. And then defensively, like Houston, going back to them, I think like you can learn like every defensive principle in the book just by watching Houston play for a couple weeks. I mean, I've really, when you really boil it down, the three principles that you always talk about, jump to pass, C-man, Z-ball, and communicate, it applies to every defense. I mean, even if you're on a zone defense, essentially. So I think one thing for me that I don't want to spend too much time and get too wrapped into it just because we talk about running too many plays. And when you go against zone defense, obviously, you don't want to spend too much time like drawing up stuff. But I think attacking zone defenses is something I've tried to study a little bit better. Like I think you guys watched that St. Pat's game last year where we tried to run that one play Minnesota when the guy lifts up. But it's like that would be something if there was a stretch where I felt like I was getting killed in zone. I've always felt like I would be a little bit more prepared against zone D.
Well, I think that that run the first year we were there helped us because we played 1-3-1 3 games in a row. Yeah. And then that summer or that off season in spring, we saw a lot of 1-2-2 or flat 3-2, and it forced me to get like those extra quick hitters. You know, like instead of high low, we were low high, and then like how do you run America's plays off the zone? You know, or like single that Dylan and St. Ignatius use a lot. So there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of quick hitters that help you to at least overload or screen the zone right place where you can write out a principal play there, right? So if the kids know like, hey, this is who is screening and why, and that's why. So then without even running the play, they understand like, hey, if we screen outside guy, then the shooter will be open. And if they fight through, the slip will be open. And if we overload, we're going to pull one guy who doesn't have a job and screen him off, or, you know, just flare that and then have an open side to attack closeout, right? So I feel like that helped me, like you said, just to attack zone better or understand that.
And I think with the shot clock coming, not this year, but the next year in Illinois basketball, I think you're going to see a lot of old-time coaches go to zone defense more because they're always used to doing a slow pace, controlling the game. And, like, you know, it's going to be 35 seconds, and they're going to, like, all right, you're going to have to figure out how to beat a zone defense in 35 seconds instead of a lot of people go long possessions against zone. So I think, like, the more you study that is really good for you because you're gonna see a lot more zones at least the first 2 years of the shot clock. Yeah,
and that's a great point. Another thing I've been kind of focusing in on with my team this summer is I love hitting threes, but when other teams are hitting threes on you, it's very demoralizing. So really putting an emphasis on protecting the 3-point line and making teams contested twos. And I think with the shot clock as well, you're going to see much more ball pressure, and defenders are going to be much more confident with like 10 seconds left in the shot clock. They're going to feel so much more comfortable getting up and then making a guy maybe beat you off the bounce and just take a tough two. And I think another thing, just last thing I'll say about something I've been studying is just the value of rim protection and like guys in the NBA who maybe aren't as skilled offensively, but they do such a good job of rim protecting, like what you do with Colin, like in that deer field defense we talk about, when you just kind of have them in the paint. I mean, NBA rules are obviously different, but you can kind of hide it, just jump out and jump back in. But having a rim protector, like I think like Maluach on Duke, like initially when I watched him, I thought he lacked some offense. Like he's not the modern day big in terms of offensively, like pushing it on his own. But then it's like he is so solid defensively around the rim. Like he is going to add value somewhere. And just, I think OKC having Chet and Hartenstein, like it's so tough to get to the basket on those guys. And when you can make teams take tough twos, it just allows for transition and so many other things. So,
so with that, like you said, recently you were thinking about something or work about something. What do you think is going to be adjustment, like with the shot clock coming in? Like, would you have something to adjust? Because now, like you said, is a put pressure on offense, but the foul baiting is going to come in too. Because if it's 2-3 seconds left on a shot clock, I know you're going to jump, right? So then I can just shot fake. What do you think?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, I think when you get to the varsity level, you can maybe work on that if you've covered enough of the areas that need to be worked on. But I think like we were talking about earlier, not running as many plays. Like, I mean, if it's 35, I believe in Illinois, I mean, it's a little bit longer, but like if you can't get into your play, let's say until 27, and then like a lot of high school coaches too will run like multi-action sets, and it's like, okay, let's say you're down to 12 and the shot's not there, then it's like scramble mode. So I think like you got to, again, push transition. You got to really emphasize that, like how can we get quicker shots. And then I think end of game, there's going to be much more sideline out of bounds that's going to occur.
So of the team fouls, or because you foul say.
So having good sideline out of bounds things. And then one thing I think I'd like to get better at is just like end of game up 6 plan, like with like a minute or two left, like a really firm plan. Like I know some coaches say like layups only, or and that's okay. But I think like having like some continuity offensively, like when you're up 6, and it doesn't just mean like hold the ball. Like what's the actual plan? Like have a big lift. A lot of coaches you'll see like a big lift and then kind of exchange.
Are you talking about with shot clock or without?
I'm just saying,
because with shot clock it's like 3 possession. You got to shoot something. You know,
that was just something in general. I was saying like I'd like to get better at, but with the shot clock, I'm curious to see how much it's going to affect. I think one thing they need to work on is it, like in the NBA and college, it obviously resets to like 14 or like 20. Like if this thing just jumps back up to 35 after every foul,
it goes back to the full shot clock every time.
That's what I'm saying. So is it going to make that much of a difference, like late in game, in terms of getting the ball back in your possession if you have like 3 fouls to give? We'll see, but it'll be interesting regardless. I'm not really sure.
Do you know, does the shot clock, is it going to be for all levels, or is it just varsity level? Or
I believe just varsity. So me as a head coach this year, I won't really have to worry about it, but still be interesting to follow.
Yeah, we'll see with the rules, because we've been playing on a circuit where it resets all the way, you know.
Good
so
point.
then, but even then, like let's say it's a 1 minute 30 seconds left, 30 second shot clock, and you down 6, it's a 2-3 possession game. I would just play defense.
Yeah,
you know, I wouldn't even foul, because why? You know, and then you press, you put the pressure, but you don't have to foul. And that's a big difference for me too. And we've been talking about if it's 3-4 point game and it's 2 minutes left in high school in Illinois, it's just that back and forth free throw, where it's still a great game. 4 point, 1 minute 30 left. It's a real game where you got to make plays. Your best players should make plays. So I feel like that shift is, it's a little different. And I think it's coming and it will change up a little bit. Okay, so we talk about end of games. Since we talk about that, who plays like in the end of games? Who would you play? Like, what will you go to?
Offensively, it depends. Are we up or down?
Just end of the game situation.
Yeah, let's say if we're going into the 4th. I like having a lot of guards on the floor, just in terms of handling ball pressure, like 5 guys where I feel like if a team is going to pressure us, all 5 guys can relatively handle the ball. It depends if we're up or down, though. I think if you're up, like I like having that rim protector. I've really started gravitated towards having like a 5 in if we're ups, just for defensive purposes. But if we're down, I think get as many quick guards on the floor, but just close game in general. In terms of non-basketball skill-wise, maybe just probably most coachable kids, like who's going to respond to coaching. Like if the ref doesn't give you a call or the coach calls out a set, like are we going to have 5 guys that are going to be able to snap to their spots? Because again, we talk about close games, like that's when you run some stuff. Like I think 5 guys, probably 5 smartest guys, in at the end of the game.
Okay.
It's interesting. I like that you said you like the rim protection if you're up, so you could always have that, like the guards pressure up, and you always have that safety net behind you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you? Let's say you down, right? Like, what would be your strategy to go to?
Just down, whatever.
Yeah, it's like 1-2 possession game. You're down. Like, what would you go to?
I mean, I initially started, and that's why Dylan's bringing up breakaway. I love my back doors, but I think at this point, I really like slips a lot. I think when you run a slip shooter action, that's good. I mean, we have our own plays that we like running when I have mine that are good.
Yeah, I love that you like in inbounds. You like American play, and everybody, either switch up or run through it, and then your guys always look for slip because it's open a lot because of that 3-point shot in the corner.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the way I preach it, I know 3 is better than 2, but I always say that the slip is the first option. I mean, I think a wide open layup is better than a 3, contrary to popular belief. But
at 16U level, it might be.
At 16U, yeah. So, but I like running a lot of slips, and then I mean, I run a lot of 4 down. Just that like kind of pick and pop 3 action, just cycling different guys in there for that. And
pacing, right?
One thing, like again, as a young coach, you just don't think about it. And now I've been really intentional about is identifying the weak defender out there. If you have 5 guys that can shoot the ball, putting that weakest defender in like some sort of ball screen late in a game is something.
Yeah. What does a good coach means to you? Like, did you have one when you were growing up, or what is it to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think my answers probably evolved a little bit over time, I'd say. In my middle school coaches were very good. They didn't have a crazy basketball background, but they were always encouraged and gave a lot of freedom, I think, which is important to young kids in terms of like you don't want to be running a bunch of plays with young kids. But I mean, I do think Livitino's a great coach. I think like something that I've said with him and I've said with you guys is like, you know what you're going to get out of a Loyola team every year, regardless of their personnel. And I think that's hard to do. So it's a coach that is able to like build a culture that's sustainable and guys are able to jump into that right away. And then I think you guys have echoed that as well in certain scenarios. And then you guys have really allowed me to see like there's so much fun that can be had in terms of like with your staff and in terms of just coaches, like have fun with players. They're going to make mistakes. And I think one thing you guys have really taught me is like players are going to make mistakes. You got to learn how to let them play through those. I think it's different like at the high school level and like the IHSA, someone that like their bench is super loud, super connected. You can tell that stems from the coach. They've got a really good off-season program. I think lifting should be the priority in the off-season. A lot of kids play AAU at this point, so I think a lot of their skills can get done that way. So lifting, you've got a good lifting program. But I know this is more like kind of organizational thoughts on coaching, but
No, but it's pretty good. I always, like we talk about, right? Like, I always respect like the something that is intangible, right? Like the Loyola's bench is one of the best. Even in the summer, they have 20 kids who might not see the floor, but they all bought in. They all believe in something bigger than them. They all cheer in. Again, we kind of compare it's like to Army a little bit, right? So it's just what it is. And you got to have that. You got to have that to succeed. And I love that part of it for sure.
And I will say like about you guys, and I mean you specifically, Meech, it's like you got to be obsessed with basketball. Like I think it's like if you were, and I don't want to assume, and I could be very wrong on this, but like how many coaches out there like watch the modern game, like college, NBA, like relatively consistently, are willing to like just be around their players, like for shooting, after practice, before practice, like as a head. But you got to be obsessed with like the art of basketball, and you got to be open to just how the game's evolved. And I think good coaches, we talk about like, I think it's such a great thing in the NBA now, but even in high school and college, like young coaches coming up that understand the modern game. I mean, you understand it great, Dylan. All you guys understand it great because the game is changing. So like I think that we talked about Gene's done so good with that at Bennett, but the game is changing, and if you stay in your old ways, it can be detrimental.
You know who watches games? Mike Bailey, my guy.
Yes, sir.
He goes through everything he could. Like he reached out to me last summer and came to our training, and he didn't have to. He's been for years, and he's a Hall of Famer, and he produced so many coaches, and he's still learning. Like that's something.
Well, he's done I mean, you can tell his program's taken a big jump over the past 5 or 6 years, and he lets his players make mistakes for sure offensively. I mean, defensively is a whole different animal with the 1-3-1. But yeah, pretty cool.
He had to go man-to-man one time. They didn't know the call.
Yes, sir.
Sure. Let's say a freshman kid show up at the Carmel tryouts, right? What advice would you give him when it comes to basketball?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I give tours at Carmel too for admissions, and sometimes when there's a basketball player, even an athlete in general, like I always say, be coachable. I mean, if you're a freshman coming in and your mindset is like, I've got to figure it out, I'm going to go do this on my own, you're gonna struggle. So be coachable. I always say show up to places on time, and then like be the first in the sprints. Like that's a way to stand out. But like, how are you going to stand out? You can stand out really quickly as a freshman, for better or for worse. Like if you don't do those 3 things, you'll stand out. If you're late every day, are last in the sprints, dogging all the drills, are talking under your breath, you'll stand out. And then vice versa. If you win all the sprints, you show up early, you're the guy that has their shoes tied 15 minutes before the coaches get in, and then you're coachable, like you're going to stand out. So you stand out earlier than you realize. I think a lot of freshmen think like they can hide when they come to a summer camp or summer league games, and like you're being evaluated from the moment you walk in that gym. So I always say, again, like to parents and then the freshman players, like, and everyone knows this, it's in basketball, it's like the summer is your tryout. I mean, June is the tryout. So if you want to make the team, first impression matters. So
yeah. What about parents? What suggestion as a basketball parents would you give to them?
Recently, I was talking to one parent, like, because they were kind of scattered with their thoughts about all the different things they wanted to do. I was like, do you want to play bat? Like, I was like, do you guys want to do this? Like, is this something that you want for you and your family? Like, do you really want your kid to play basketball? And then I listed all the things that come with it. Like it's a 12-month commitment if you're serious about it. Like I would suggest playing AAU. You're going to have lifts at 6 a.m. where you're going to have to drop your kid off. You're going to have highs and lows in terms of their emotions. They're going to be busy. They're going to have homework and basketball on top of that. They might not play as much as they did in 8th grade. Like, are you prepared for this? And do you want it? because you really got to think about, do you want it, or do you just want to have your son like hit a bunch of threes on Friday nights, or like, do you really want to be a part of this grind? And I try to not scare him away, but really be honest. And I'm like, it's a 12-month, 4-year commitment for the top players. If it's
not from the top, honestly, it's for any
for
player.
everyone.
You want to be want to be on top, so you probably got to do even more work to get there.
And I always say too, like it's hard. The whole adage about 3-sport athletes, it's really tough. You're just not going to take a step forward. So when they come in, like, I want to play 4 sports or whatever, it's like you don't want to put that to the side. I think freshman year can be attainable to play 3 sports, but just try to get their mind thinking about, like, just evaluate. Do you really like this?
I ease up on a little bit on that.
Yeah.
I feel like there's no balance. If you're an elite athlete, if you're an elite player, if you obsess about it, there's no balance.
Yeah.
So like that, throw that out of the window right away. But I feel like it's doable, and I feel like it rests you mentally too, and it challenges you physically different. So I kind of ease up a little bit on that, because I thought, hey, you got to put, all eggs in one basket. You want to be a basketball player, it starts early and just keep going. Same with football. I feel like there's some positions that not skill based. So if you're a really good athlete and you kind of can lock down and come back to it almost, you can be successful, right? Like as a quarterback, you probably have to train all year round. But, if you're a linebacker, right, or like wide receiver, if you lock things down and you athletically getting better, you don't need to be as much skill-based. I might be wrong, but I feel like some sport is like that. But again, I agree. Like as a varsity player, there's overlaps and there's challenges that, it's a commitment.
Yeah, I mean, the list is short. I wouldn't even know names of kids that don't play AAU that are really, really successful in high school basketball at this point. I mean, unless you're, again, just a freak athlete that might play football and basketball or something. So you got to commit.
With that, what sports are beneficial for basketball players to play outside of just basketball? Do you see any benefits of any other sports? Or because I know for us, on my 15U team, my point guard that's developing, trying to get better court vision. Well, she said she wanted to play flag football. So we're saying, no, you got to go be the quarterback. Like you have to be able to see the whole field and be able to make the right reads on time. So do you see any other sports that could be beneficial for basketball players?
I know it does take a lot of time too. So in terms of the skills, it can be a little bit hard, but I do think football can be a benefit just in terms of the physicality component. That's an instance, like we've had players even at Carmel, like the offensive skills aren't there, but if you don't have as much talent, like you kind of need them. So I think like from a physicality standpoint, just in terms of rebounding, ball pressure, football is a good sport. Just gets you in that mindset where you're just kind of fearless. I do think basketball is relatively unique. Just there's so many different facets to it. I mean, there's passing in lacrosse and soccer, but it's just different. Vision. I mean, I played lacrosse growing up. I don't know if that would be a test. Like, I don't know if there's crossover between.
Can you learn something from other sports, you think, that can be translatable?
From like the actual sport, or just like
we talk about like swimming, like you learn breathing, you learn conditioning, right? Like you go to soccer and you understand spacing better and footwork. You go to tap dancing and like it's a footwork, right? Or you go tennis and it's lateral speed. So do you think there are some things that you can take from other sports and learn?
Probably. And then the one thing that's outside of physicality with football, though, I do think you can still get from football is like leverage and like setting up your cuts. Like they always say with receiver, like you want to set up inside and go outside or vice versa. Like I always say to basketball players, like regardless of how fast you are, maybe at like the lower levels, once you get to higher level, like you can't just run in a straight line to get open. You got the 3 C's, shout out Brandon Young, change your height, speed, and direction. And you got to do that as a receiver too. I mean, when you're on the line, you got to change your height, speed, and direction, trying to get past the DB. So something similar.
Because we've been talking to, like, let's say basketball is a team sport, right?
Yeah.
Like you can show up and not be in the best shape or like have a best day. But if it's individual sport, it changes mentality a little bit. So like all kids should do both at some point, because then you rely on yourself, like you show up not fully ready for a track meet, you're done.
You get exposed.
Right.
Yeah.
But in basketball, like I might not sleep tonight and then I show up next day and then I still I have teammates. I can manipulate the game. I can not play as much. I can still shoot, so it's that. I feel like that's what kind of Coach Dillon was asking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the benefit of individual sports is, you can really, as I said, get exposed.
So would you suggest any individual sport that you think may be beneficial?
I mean, I love golf, but I don't know if there's a ton of crossover. I mean, there's the mental grind, obviously. So you could say mentally, I always say golf, when you struggle on the first couple holes, you do have time to recover. So in basketball, it's a long game. So you got to be able to handle the punches.
So there you go.
Boom.
And made that free throw in hand or the shot, right?
Yep.
So mentally, that helps athletes to stay lucky in a moment.
Yeah.
All right. What about, do you read a lot? Like, are there any books you can suggest to players or coaches to read for basketball?
I do not read a ton, so maybe that's something I got to do better at. I did read a John Wooden book a little bit ways back.
Do you remember?
It was way back. I was in early high school. I forgot the title.
Did it have the pop-ups?
Probably. If I was reading it, it probably did.
Cartoon.
Do you remember what it was?
The Jordan Rules I read recently. I mean, it's not that interesting of a novel, and you can't learn a ton of lessons from it. So I would like to read more. I mean, I read a lot of articles and stuff, but in terms of a book, Ben Berg's been recommending this one book. I forgot the title of it, but I think that's one I'm going to try to read this fall. You know the name of it, Dylan?
I should know because I'm on the email chain too.
Grit?
No.
You'll find it in a little bit, maybe. Yeah, that's one I'd like to read in the fall.
Oh, Twin Thieves.
Twin Thieves, that's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's that guy.
Look it up.
What's the author?
Don't ask me that. I didn't look it up. I just remember the name.
Okay. Twin Thieves.
That was good. He made me read it when I got the job there first.
Yeah.
That's the book we're doing for Ignatius for a study for our captains.
Oh,
Nice. You remember them leadership meetings?
We read a book.
Good
We did that when I was at Loyal. We read a book called The Obstacle's the Way. And so that was kind of the whole messaging for the season, which was a good book then.
Nice. What are your goals with basketball?
So it's probably changed over time. I mean, I was, again, I don't need to say immature, but just a very ambitious, unrealistic, probably. Like when I first started coaching, it's like, wow, I'm going to coach Division I college basketball in 5 to 10 years. And that's going to be a sweet thing for me to have that experience. And then you realize that's first off, there's a lot of steps I get to that. But then in the reality, it's like you can have so much fun still with high school players. So in terms of that was the question, what are my goals?
Yeah.
I mean, I think far-fetched down the road, I would like to coach Division I basketball someday. I think that is a goal that I have, but I'm not feeling that I need to do that right away. I do take a step back and look at those coaches' ages and say wow, I'm only 25. So I think a couple different routes I would consider taking is I obviously am in no rush right now to leave the places that I'm at right now, but being able to run my own program in Illinois would be something that I know we've talked about would be a really cool experience. And
a high school or travel?
A high school program. I'm not leaving you guys a full package.
Heck yeah.
So your goal would be being a head varsity coach and to run the program.
That's probably my next goal, would be in high school, or just in all of my coaching, would be to run my own program in Illinois. And then maybe get into college after that. I think it's way too early for me to say. My mindset's changed on that now. Maybe I'm just a high school head coach for a long time, and then But
you would be surprised how much impact
yeah,
you might have compared like even versus a college coach, like we say the impact, 12, 15 kids and you can impact 200 a year.
yeah.
So
being a head high school coach would be that's my next goal.
all right.
Yeah, and going back to the impact thing, like just look at Mike Bailey, and he is like almost a quarter of the high school coaches in the area have been on the staff at one time, and there's still players that go back to those, even though you see him on the sideline. Some people feel like, oh, why would you want to play for him? But all those kids keep coming back, and even Levatino, like everyone's like, oh, he's a lunatic, but to this day, he's still reaching out to players from 10, 15 years ago, and they're all coming back. So the impact of a high school coach over a college coach or NBA coach, I wouldn't say like you should put yourself down by just saying, well, right now I just want to be a head high school coach, because there's a lot of kids out there that need opportunities to have a great high school experience and coaches.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would be, I think that moment will happen at some point soon, but I'm excited for that, because I think that'd be something that I really, really enjoy.
What would be the first thing you do? Let's say you got a head coach job today. The first thing.
What time of year is it?
Today.
Today's
July.
Wow, this is a dead period.
Okay.
Lift, 6 a.m. lift tomorrow.
All right.
No.
Short
Right
term.
now,
all three kids going to show up.
Right.
if I got a job in July, I would probably send out an email to all of the players that were on the rosters last year, introducing myself, and then have a team meeting the first week of school. Not a team meeting, but whoever's interested, like a basketball info meeting the first week of school. And then from there, I would mimic my fall program off of Loyola's. So, and then we'd hit the ground running, hopefully.
Nice. What let's say you are head coach. What do you think you can measure? Like what tangible things you can measure to see success of the program or the team?
How many kids like come to your tryout, I think is one. Like they like see it from the outside, like they want to be a part, like do they want to be a part of this? But it's, and again, like do kids show up every day? Like I'm not going to take too much credit for this, but I think like one thing that really stood out to me for my sophomores this year is like kids didn't miss anything. Like we had higher numbers than the freshmen most of the days, and they had 2 teams. I'm not gonna say most of the days, but some of the days. But but I just think like when you walk in the gym, like after school, like are the kids smiling? Like, or are they like completely wiped out and don't want to be there? Like it should be something that they want to be at. So that would be a good measuring stick. And then I think like just pace of everything, like how they come out of in warm-ups, like how do they warm up? Like as a fan, you can see like the good teams are very intentional about warm-ups, but in terms of measuring success, obviously down the road you can get wins and losses, but in the first year, if I were to measure it, it would probably be based on like how many kids try out next year.
Oh, like the jump or
yeah. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's I think Jordan talked about it too, about some things that he was really proud about at Carm was the way where people might have stopped to play a specific sport other than basketball and then came back because they missed the culture of the basketball team. And I know he had a couple football players give it up for a year and then they came back, and he was very happy about that. So I like the tangibles about like how many people show up each day in the off season, or how many people are returning to try out the next year. Those are good ones.
Yeah.
Is there anything basketball wise that you would like your programs to tally maybe during games or at practices that are more basketball, just specifics?
Something I would have never thought about, but would be the shot clock violations would be a new one. And then
like you allowed or yours?
That you
call?
Like stopped. Like
Okay.
how many did you stop? So defense, I think it'd be defensively and offensively. Again, defensively, I mean, I love the deflections thing that Shaka Smart does. I think
kills.
he does kills as well. I think deflections, though, it really shows like how active you guys are. And then, I'm going to say one of them is charges.
Of course.
But
can't play college basketball unless you take a charge.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. I do think deflections, though, defensively is a really good measuring stick, just in terms of like overall team activity. Offensively, I found over this past weekend, I think part of our success is really attributed to like offensive rebounds. And one thing I always say, like this goes for offense and defensively, like again, at the sophomore level, it doesn't get statted. In AAU, like you can get stats in like some scenarios. Like if you don't get, like if we go through a whole game and you have like one rebound and you play like 35 minutes, like that's like kind of crazy. So I really think rebounds is a telling stat. But offensively, there's probably some things. Just
Assists, passes, hockey assists.
Yeah, it's basically to give you advice on that. Be like, what do you want your offense to get, and then what things can you tally that causes those things? Like if you want paint touches, those are easy, right? But also if you want to tally uncontested threes, okay, so like what does your offense do? We want to shoot a lot of threes, okay, so let's tally uncontested ones and then kind of like see how you can game plan to get those shots.
Yeah, one thing I do preach a lot is off-ball screening. I mean, ultimately you'd get to the point where hopefully there's so many you can't even count.
Right.
But because that can be something to count. That's hard to count for like high-level programs and fast programs. But off-ball screens, especially if you run like an offense, like a Princeton offense, and you're expected to screen, like what do your exchanges look like? So off-ball screens would be an interesting thing to track, I think, offensively, which can hopefully lead to a lot of threes. I love threes. So,
all right, since we talk about this, I know you watch a lot of basketball. What about film? Like, do you watch film? How do you analyze film of the games?
I watched all of my sophomore games this year after in totality. I watched some of the full package games, not as much as you guys for sure. But in terms of analyzing film, one thing I do have to get better at is if you stop and start it too much, I think like it's easy to find like mistakes that in the long run, like you can get stuck on things that like, are they that macro of an issue? So I think letting it play more and taking notes throughout, opposed to like stop, start, stop, especially when you're watching with your team, like letting it flow. Like one thing I did when we watched a lot of film even as a sophomore team this year. Like I would barely stop it. Because again, if you stop and start the whole time, like you might only watch the first 4 minutes, unless you cut it obviously the night before and spend a lot of time on it. But let them watch, and then I'd write notes throughout of it. And like there'd be some sessions be like count every deflection, then you get players' intention, like, oh, there's one. Like, how did that happen? Like, oh, because I flew on the pass or I had active hands low. But when you're watching it on your own, I mean, as a sophomore coach, you're not afforded the huddle stats, so I would have to be intentional about what things I'd want to pick out. So like I would count like field goal percentage. I think like, not to call out my team because we've had a lot of conversations about it and they got so much better at it. But I think in high school in general, especially at the low levels, like kids sometimes got to step back and be like, what's my 3-point percentage in the last like 3 weeks? Like they think like they're a really good shooter.
Yeah.
And so it's like, no, you're like 3 for 25 in your last whatever or something like that. So like that's something minor. And then like you'll show them like, why'd you take that shot and all that sort of thing. So, but film is something I haven't taken a huge deep dive in my career in terms of studying it as much, but it always helps when you do. But I do think you can get stuck on minor details and make them macro details if you watch too much stop and start of it.
No, yeah, I like letting it play out too, and just especially when you're watching it with a team. Like maybe if I'm watching by myself, I stop and start it all the time, and I'll spend a couple hours on it or whatever. But watching it in like live game time and seeing the flow of everything, and then having your team like, call out what's happening, what's the good things, what's the bad things, so they can start reading it and they're watching the game. It's kind of how I like doing it.
Yeah, because sometimes if you just pick and choose, it might be a bad foul or bad shot.
Yeah.
But then in the flow of the game, if you just hit 3 and then you brought in and shot it,
Yeah.
and you were open, then like in that particular flow of the game, it might not be a good, bad shot or for this particular player at that moment, or vice versa. So,
yeah, I mean, you could spend every single possession picking out something,
Right,
even
right.
if it is a successful one. So it's just
that's good that you came to it. That's good. What's a successful season for you?
that's a good question. I do think there has to be some winning in there. I do think, but I think a successful season, I view the season again as a 12-month season, essentially. So it starts with having a committed off season in the weight room. And I think like attendance level in the off season is where it starts. Like that shows success if you've got high numbers in the off season. But during the season itself, it's a success if, again, players are high energy. I think energy is a huge thing. Like I love the phrase "a quiet gym's a losing gym." I got that from you. So like a loud gym on a consistent basis is something that is very successful, in my opinion. And then just defensively, like having those if you go game by game in terms of success, like we used to do the single digit quarters and all that stuff. So like stringing that stuff together. But a successful season, I mean, I haven't done it at high enough level as a head coach to really think about it. But I would say this AAU season has probably been, I'd say the last 2 teams I've coached have been the most successful teams I've coached in terms of
about Carmel sophomore and 16U White.
Yeah. So like Carmel sophomores, we were like top half of the ESCC. And we didn't have a single kid that came in to that season who had played AAU basketball at the high school level. And so we did so much skill development, like just all that skill development stuff that you guys have taught me. We really, really focused on. And then the full package season this past spring and summer. Like it's just been a very fun time, all the practices. And I think the last 2 times, I don't want to credit myself too much. The last 2 times I've coached, and it always was at varsity with you guys and stuff too, but like our numbers are so high, like every practice, like for 16U full package, like I was telling my parents, like it was July 3rd, we were at LFA at like 5 to 7. Like this is the 4th of July, everyone travels. And we had, when I was driving up, I was like, oh, there's gonna be 6 kids here tonight. We had like 24 kids there. And that's incredible. And we had a great practice.
Yeah, nice. Let's say, the higher level you go, the more mental games get.
Yeah.
What do you suggest or maybe tell players, or do you know how to can work on that part? How do you work on your mental game?
Yeah, I mean, this is a given. I've heard a lot of coaches say this, especially at the higher level, like you're a reflection of your players. So like if you're having these massive emotional swings throughout the game, throughout the practices, throughout the season, expect the same from your players, because like your energy level is rubbing off on them. So like you got to hold yourself accountable to the same standard that you hold your players to in terms of your emotions. So like if you're coming in, and obviously there's moments in the season where you got to kind of lay down the law and get on them about like whether it be their work ethic or not remembering plays and stuff like that. But just, you really got to pause at certain times and realize, like, all eyes are on you. Like, every single practice, every single game, all eyes are on you. So your energy, your actions are going to be the ultimate decision maker on how your team performs and acts.
For a player that struggles with pressure, what are some things that you recommend they do? And not pressure like ball handling, pressure like the game pressure itself.
I think come to full package. No, I think, like, honestly, come to those workouts that we do, which are like not as many kids. Like, I used to do things in July where, like, I would just have the gym open and we do like a bunch of like fun shooting drills, but you're getting like a high volume of shots up at the same time. So I think coming to like off-season smaller stuff with players that you're not necessarily going to be like measured against. Like, you're not going to play one-on-one and lose every time, but you're going to be put into situations where you're going to hit a lot of shots and get a lot of shots up, can bolster your confidence as a player. But yeah, pressure, there's so much pressure that comes with playing high school. I mean, I experienced as a player when I was obviously getting cut. But sometimes, like, I think for me, like I felt a lot of pressure in high school when I was going through that experience, like trying to make the team. And I realized, like, what are the things that I can control and like do the best at? Like, I always viewed myself, and I think a lot of kids, they come into high school like, I'm a great shooter, like, because they shoot in the driveway, they hit a bunch of shots, like, there's no actual ball pressure on them or pressure in any sort of way. So like, go just dive on the floor. It'll kind of like wake you up and re-energize you, like that. Anyone can do that. Or just go start talking. Like, I always say, like, to my players when I was getting on them, and it's a great way to get teams to communicate, especially low level teams, like, because sometimes people view talking as quote unquote cool, like, and they don't want to talk that way. But I always say it as a way to kind of flip them on it. Like, if you don't talk, it shows you're scared. So like, the players that think it's cool, like, then they'll start talking, because like, I don't want to be viewed as scared. And then it becomes kind of like a reverse psychology on their part. And then you just get like, I had a lot of players. I really got to give Jackson Stavros a lot of credit this year, because I had a conversation with him in the offseason, because we did have clearly like a bottom 5 or 6 guys this year, but they were so detrimental in our not detrimental. They were so important in our success. And I talked to Jackson about, like, because a lot of our other guys were football guys, fall sports guys. So during the fall, Jackson was kind of like one of the main focal points and leaders that they looked at. So he did such a good job at like including them, picking them as partners in shooting drills and that sort of thing. So I think when you can hone on your leaders to like be partners in drills with like the weaker players, it will help build their confidence.
Do you ever get nervous before games or season? And if you do, like, what do you usually worry about?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started coaching, I was shitting my pants before some of those full package games. I remember we had our first game, my first head coach game was in Appleton. Never been a head coach before. And you guys are great about coming to the games when you can. But I think this happened to be a game where you guys had like 17 new games, and I was in a gym just alone, never head coached. And here comes the full court press right off the tip. And so I was definitely nervous in that situation. And I think like parents can be something that, like, if you think too much about them, like, it can definitely make you nervous. And I think I've done a much better job the past year or two.
Just to shut them out during the games.
Shut them out, alleviate that. And I've had the last 2 seasons I've had like really good parents. And I think they've seen how much time that I've put in. So there's been a good trust that's been built there. But I think one way to alleviate like pressure AAU, I don't think there's as much pressure until maybe you get to like the top 17U level. But I think realizing there's so many games, like you got to just work on development over time, and like the wins will come. But I was definitely like a nervous coach at the beginning, but like this year I've really taken a step back. Like one thing I learned from Jordan is like, I think when I sit more, it actually helps me. Like I like to stand throughout the game, like get up and down. But if I'm standing pacing the whole game, it's just like a complete like something. So when you sit back and kind of like just take 2 possessions off from talking, things kind of, the dust kind of settles.
Yeah. Got to detach yourself sometimes.
Yeah. And a good cough drop helps too.
That's right.
So
supplier.
Yep.
Oh, we got it. What do you most belong?
In basketball, I feel very comfortable around like you guys in full package, I would say. So I think like, but I do think coaching is something I can see myself doing, hopefully for forever. I mean, it's easy for me to say. I've been doing it going into my 4th season. But I do think that coaching, the whole thing about just sitting in a desk my whole life is something that I don't think I could do. So coaching is something I think is where I belong. And credit to you guys, because you guys have made it such a easy experience. Like it never feels like, oh, I practice and I just like can't wait to go to practice. So definitely feel like coaching is what is my calling.
If you can relive one season, what would it be? And you're a young coach.
Yeah.
Dayton 2020.
No COVID in Dayton. Honestly, because I was such like, I mean, I had an assistant coach last year, Ben Halverson, did a great job. But he kind of came in last minute, like with the whole off season. Like I was really in it on my own last year, I felt like, just in terms of like scheme and all that stuff. And like, I had a really good time. Like all 16 guys were fully bought in, like every single day. Like, and it was just so fun to be around. I had great kids, great parents. We had some upsets, but they kept showing up every day. So I would say that season, the first season obviously was the most successful with you guys. But I was so like, you guys would call out plays and like I wouldn't even know what they were. And so like kind of there were some parts to that which was a little bit like I'm just learning and I'm just lots coming at me and processing a lot. So like this past Carmel sophomore season was definitely like the most like, wow, I know what I'm doing and it's kind of working. So
would you change anything knowing it now?
Yeah. I mean, nah, probably not a ton. There's probably certain games if I looked back on. There was one game at Lake Zurich, which like I was really on him about shooting a lot of threes in the first half, which we were struggling at. So game by game, I mean, I have to think back. But we did a really solid job, like execution. I mean, we ran a lot of plays last year, but I wouldn't say it was super detrimental to us. Again, we didn't. I think sometimes you can go transition and have a little bit more freedom when you have higher level players. So that kind of helped us to an extent. But in terms of what I would change, we did a lot of ball handling and we still struggled at ball handling. So maybe putting more focus on something else. But it's hard to
like
say.
do contact ball handling.
That would be, yeah. I think because we've talked about like we do a lot of ball handling to begin practice, but when you're not doing it with contact, I think it can sometimes give a false sense of where you're at as a ball handler. But I will say I think all the running was great. I think we needed to do more running. No, I'm kidding.
No, in our training, I switched up too. I don't remember last time I did a no partner ball handling. So it's always offhand, it's always bumps, it's always something like really well, because there's no time in the game you do it. So I just felt like I personally got away from there.
I would say one last thing is I wish we did more half court 5-on-5, not as much stop and start. Like with my team this past summer, we struggled a little bit. Like we didn't have a ton of talent. And I think I texted you guys, like we started doing some continuous 5-on-5 half court, and I don't know if I would correlate this to us winning, but we just started winning more after that and playing much better. So maybe
it helps. So if you say players don't play AAU, they need all the reps they can get.
Yeah.
Even situational stuff. Like sometimes kids might never be in a situation where they were up with 40 seconds left.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? Or now you're down 2, or you up 3. Like, do you foul or not foul? So then if you don't have that practice, then you would expect them to know, but they might not. So then the situational stuff, might be very important. And that's why I realized, because like you said, we didn't have a lot of basketball per se players in Carmel. So the situational stuff became important. And that's why the end of the games, we would just simulate those with different scenarios.
Yeah. Yeah. And at Carmel, we had at least competitive kids where they could feel the same pressure as in gameplay. Because even in a simple drill we did, they still don't want to lose. But talking about your, most memorable season, for you not to be able to think of anything you changed, that's probably why it's the most memorable season, because you were very successful and there was nothing that there was maybe little hitches, but you just attacked all the hitches and all the problems and solved them during the year. So that's cool.
Yeah, and I think I'd harped on it earlier, but I think I had 16 kids on the team last year. 13 are trying out for varsity. So I think that's kind of a good testament to that.
Yeah. But is there anything you want to talk about that we didn't cover?
No, I think you guys did a good job.
So we have a tradition that the person before leave you a question and you got to answer it, and then you give a question to the next person. So Coach Jordan left a question that if you have any time or place in the history and you can just put yourself in there, what would it be?
I think it was 1992. It was the third championship when John Paxson hit a 3 off a Horace Grant kick out. But all of those Bulls home games during the Jordan era would be awesome to be at. So.
You would teleport you there?
I would teleport to courtside behind Phil Jackson and Tex Winter.
Hard to see because he sits on that pad. You might have to go behind somebody else. That's funny.
Those 90s Bulls, yeah. I mean, I love that last dance. It was so cool to watch. So that'd be fun.
Okay. What the question that you can leave to the next guest?
As an avid listener, I'm upset that you didn't have a question prepared.
I know you haven't recorded for a month, but if you were on a road trip, there's 3 people who you'd ride with. Who would it be? You're going to Fort Wayne, Indiana. You're going to
a good 4-hour ride with the traffic.
Yeah.
All right. 3 people you would take on a road trip to go to Fort Wayne.
Question.
Yeah. Good. We got it.
So,
thank you, Billy.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bill.
Thank you.